Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And tonight we're going to do a countdown list that's not going to stir up any controversy whatsoever. Isn't that right, Dragon?
Yeah.
No hot takes on this show. Oh god, Dragon, we actually got our first dislike that I've seen in a long time on Steven Universe Future, just probably for the sheer sake that it's Steven Universe. So Dragon, Steven Universe Future just wrapped not too long ago. We just finished our recap podcast on it. So with all the series, kind of wrapped up for now until Rebecca Sugar decides to do like a 10 years later sequel series or something like that. We know it's going to happen eventually. But we're going to take kind of like our top 10 favorite Steven Universe episodes. And importantly, this does include Future. There's one Future episode in here, or a couple of them if you include honorable mentions.
Yeah, if you include honorable mentions, sure.
But there's one in the in my top 10. Ooh, spoiler. So Future's getting a little bit of love. Dragon, I'm just going to state right now, my criteria, honestly, I'm not going to lie, it's based a lot on the fond memories I have from the era where we could actually do the reaction podcasts. Those reaction podcasts were some of the funnest times that I've ever had with you, man. Where we had, I believe we had a setup where I was using my laptop to fill my desktop computer. And man, I don't know, we just had some fun times doing those things. So I'm not like basing everything on that, but I'm saying nostalgia is definitely going to play a part when it comes to the, our podcast involving Steven Universe, which by the way, I don't even think you can find anymore because we kind of desperately took him down once Cartoon Network was kind of like, hey, you can't use our footage.
And yet, they have so many reacts videos on there now. It's still going on. People can react as far as the day is long, as long as they cut away from every couple seconds. But of course, dude, if they put literally the episode on the screen, we have basically, you can kind of make out an episode in the background. Where's the justice, folks? That's what I ask.
Right.
That's all I ask.
All right, so that's in favorite. Of course, there's going to be a very personal leaning here. I mean, I have Onion Friend on my list. I don't mean to give away my whole list, but that's a very controversial take to have that episode on a favorites list. So, yeah, of course, animation, song memorability is a big one for me. How good the songs are because I feel like that's a big root of the show. Of course, characters. Big moments are a big one with the reactions, and that's basically my criteria. Dragon, what was your criteria?
My criteria, so folks, again, we're going by favorites here, so we're not just going through some, like, if you're expecting, the first, Stevonnie Fusion, you won't find it on this list, folks. Nothing against that episode, that would be like for, like, your top 10 best Steven Universe episodes. You're looking for objective best and, like, big first, and so on and so forth. For example, like, I would have loved to put, Change Your Mind on there, but Change Your Mind, it's a good, series finale, of course, but bear in mind, we kind of did 3 series finale with Steven Universe in the long run.
Right.
Basically, as much as I really wanted to put White Diamond on my list, I couldn't quite get her on there because she just kind of usually comes in at the end of the episode, and that it wasn't quite good enough to really kind of put on there as like a full episode, And again, the last one was like the closest I got on there, but I would put that on like a top 10 best list. I'm definitely going by favorites in terms of like the stuff I rewatch or stuff I really have a great deal of fondness for, stuff that are like real touchstones for me personally with Steven Universe. So, I mean, that's That's pretty much my criteria.
So let's get into honorable mentions. Drake, do you want to do the song one more time for old time's sake, or since this isn't a recap, do you want to skip the song?
I mean, if you really want to do it, we will.
I honestly really don't, to tell you the truth.
Then why would you propose it then? Then no, we won't.
I feel like we put it to bed with the Steven Universe podcast.
Okay, well let's spare the audience then. Let's just go into the honorable mentions.
Okay, so honorable mentions for me. The first honorable mention I'm going to go to is the very early episode, and I like it just simply because of the kind of scary, like I could imagine a kid watching it and sort of having nightmares of it the same way that we did of certain Hey Arnold or Rugrats episodes, and that's Frybo. Frybo's just a really of course, Frybo, not the best episode in terms of like it introduced us to Ronaldo and Petey, who are probably the worst characters on the show objectively. Both of them kind of suck in their own unique ways, but Frybo himself is a really good monster, and of course, Dragon Frybo kind of calls to mind a certain antagonist in a certain novel by a certain captain.
Yes. Well, we should promote it if you're going to bring it up like that. Just like give them the shout out the name of the book.
All right, well, folks, if you want to check out the really bonkers, kind of like it's crazy how insanely well it matches up with the current events that are going on, even though it was completely unintentional. Check out Captain Logan from Geekvolution. He wrote an audiobook that is now free for the end of April called The Edible States of America, where what if one day, in the blink of an eye, all of America turned to anthropomorphic junk food items? And yeah, just it's craziness. It's craziness.
Very much kind of sci-fi body horror. A little bit of comedy, because again, it's pretty much let's all go to the lobby, but darker.
It's that, but the most twisted version of that you've ever seen.
Like it starts off a little like, hey, let's all go to the lobby, and then like, okay, I didn't think of it that way. Then, oh my god, I'm on the edge of my seat. Oh god.
Dragon, I haven't read it until I get my new laptop, which is happening Saturday, just because I'm with my computer issues, it's kind of like, no, I don't want it to shut down like mid paragraph, But I'm about halfway through it. I'm about 6 hours in, and let me tell you, it's just starting to ratchet up like the intensity. Basically, where I am is the borders just opened up, Dragon. And
yeah.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. Anyways.
Also, we have Claudia in the comments.
Claudia!
Well, Coringa.
Nice to see you, Claude. Nice to see you. You Claude! All right. Okay, honorable mention numero dos. We have Fusion Cuisine. Now, to me, it was between Fusion Cuisine and the episode that is my number 10. Both episodes really focus on fusion. Fusion Cuisine is honestly maybe like a sequel to the episode that's my number 10 spot. But Fusion Cuisine, it's a really good episode. It's a great time. It's the first time we see Alexandrite, and it's just a great comedy episode too. I just love the premise of this huge like kaiju fusion trying to have this casual dinner with Connie's family. It's a really fun episode. And then another Connie episode, I'm shouting out Nightmare Hospital, which I really wanted to put on the list, Greg. I really wanted to put this episode on the list. But honestly, when it came down to it, all the other episodes on my list are really solid, like all the way through. And it's not like Nightmare Hospital is bad until the end. But Nightmare Hospital, just really, everyone remembers that episode for the last couple minutes. So I really couldn't justify, because I really don't remember all that much about the episode besides the cluster attack. But man, that cluster attack scene alone, it's one of the most memorable moments in Steven Universe for me. All right.
Indeed it is. Claudia's, really on fire with the suggestions here. These are good. These are such good ideas. We never even thought of them. I mean, doing another, maybe down the line, doing another top 10 on the favorite songs from Steven Universe, maybe even favorite characters.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely be down for favorite songs. And Claude, yeah. I definitely took songs into account when ranking these episodes too. I mean, not all the time. There's a couple episodes where songs don't really play a big role, but a lot of them, I have music plays a big role. So, all right, Dragon, honorable mentions, fire away.
Honorable mentions for me, and by the way, one other proviso in my ranking and accounting of things. Again, Tiki and I, just so people know, we didn't want to double up in our picks, so we divvied up certain favorites. So even if certain ones are in the upper echelon of Tiki's list, would have also probably been the upper echelon of my list as well. I mean, we'll see where they ended up landing, but let's just say some of the there's some really good ones. And I took some of his favorites, he took some of my favorites. The point being, one to kind of showcase as much good favorites as we could. So that's why. So in case you're wondering, like, why is it on his list? Well, it would have been, folks, anyway. So Honorable mentions for me. So again, I want to put more Steven Universe Future on my list. There's a little bit of a recency thing, so they kind of ended up in the honorable mentions. But one right off the bat to keep it brief: Together Forever. The big proposal episode with Connie. Love it. I love how it's full circle about like how they first met. I love like how realistic it is, and like again, it's like there's something so sweet, and we're setting up our character for a fall. Really good stuff. Just really impressive. It's definitely my favorite out of all the Steven Universe future stuff, along with the along with just the future episode, kind of the grand finale of everything. Again, they didn't quite make the final cut because again, a little too recent. And again, I don't know if I'd go back to them 100% quite yet as much as I would once we get to the top 10. So a little side note for Together Forever. Anyway, so let me fire off the rest of the honorable mentions here. So honorable mention number 3, Future Boy Zoltron.
Really?
Yeah, I really like this.
I mean, fair enough. I don't really remember this really sticking out for me.
Well, it was one of our really fun reaction ones, Sticky. This is so of course Future Boy Zoltan's kind of a cute nod to Big, and also the kind of reusing the Future Vision. It's a nice backstory on Mr. Smiley and his old comedy partner, Mr. Frowny, and of course the main reasons on the honorable mentions, the reason I can't really shake Future Boy Zoltron, I get just the Neil Gaiman factor of it all, where Brian George playing Mr. Frowny, and he's so remarkably similar to Neil Gaiman and the way he sounds and the way he's designed. It's just a lot of fun. Again, it's in the honorable mention space. If I would go back to suppose I'm always going to be thinking in part Future Boys Ultra in the middle of other Neil Gaiman things. Like, oh yeah, remember that one time we almost had that kind of that Neil Gaiman-esque character. Oh, what fun! It's a cute episode. All right, then we have The Test. The Test is an episode that really holds a lot of water when you rewatch it. This is a very Dan Scanlon-esque moral to the story here. This is the Stephen goes through the 3 trials the Crystal Gem set up for him. Like we want to test you for a mission, so you're going to go through.
Yeah, I remember this. This was a really early episode. Yeah,
really good one too. I've always, yeah. It's so basically, it's again very Dan Scanlon-esque in that you think, okay, we think it's going to go one way. There's kind of a major subversion here where we revealed the tests are fake, and basically they were kind of really false tests designed to boost Steven Universe's confidence. And again, it calls into mind one of my favorite things about the show, kind of the 3 moms factor of the Crystal Gems, where it's like they don't know what they're doing, they're just trying to be there for the kid, but they're really unsure, how exactly to do this. So Steven, he kind of plays along. Hey, look, I did it. That test was so difficult, despite him knowing the truth. Really good stuff there. And lastly, a big one I always have to put in there. There's no question this was not going to be in the honorable mentions. Cat Fingers. Oh boy, Cat Fingers.
I was honestly kind of surprised it didn't make your official list.
It was that and the number 10 kept jumping between each other here. But here's the fact.
Same with me and my number 10, yeah.
So here's the thing. So the honorable mention, the reason it's not mentioned is, again, I love Cat Fingers mainly for the 3rd act. So I couldn't quite put it on the top 10 because, again, I think the other 10, like the full episode kind of makes the cut, where this is just the 3rd act. And, this is when the show really started to grab me in the early bit of the show. It's so ridiculous, but it's so accurate, though, because the 3rd act just kind of grabbed me with the show, saying, okay, silly episode, kids' fingers turns into cats. But then again, this is where they really sold me. The first time, it's you take the dumbest situation.
Keep in mind, it took me a while for me to convince you to watch the show. It was kind of a running joke between us for a while,
which is true. That's what I'm saying.
And BoJack, honestly.
So eventually, when I checked out, and honestly, it was kind of for a similar reason. The animation style scared me off from the two of them, if I'm being frank. That was always kind of the thing with Steven Universe, and especially with BoJack. I'm still not sold on everything about BoJack, but I did stick on Will Arnett of it all. But anyway, that's another conversation. So, Cat Fingers, again, the way it sold me, like in watching through the episodes, I think everyone's kind of universal in that the Cookie Cat didn't quite sell everyone from the get-go, from the outset. It took a few episodes to get you on the Steven Universe, right?
Oh yeah, big time, big time.
So with me,
when I was watching Cookie Cat, I vividly remember sitting down and being like, "All right, I've heard so much about the Steven Universe show. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna watch it." And then Cookie Cat comes on, and I'm like, "Oh God, is this really what people are on about?"
So let me ask you something: was Frybo the one that got you like my Cat Fingers thing here?
Yeah, I mean, both Frybo and Cat Fingers kind of come pretty close to each other, So
oddly enough, Frybo comes an episode right before Cat Fingers. That's why I bring it up. So
I would say those 2 episodes together definitely helped. Yeah.
So anyway, the moral of the story here, Catfinger, is that we took the dumbest situation, but we played it so dramatically and so compellingly. And the way Greg Universe factored into that episode was really what sold me on the series. And it basically is like, okay, I'm going to keep. I was thinking about maybe dropping off around this point, but you know what? This Catfingers thing, as ridiculous as it is, it was really compelling. Dad, it's too late. Go without me. And he sprays him with the hose and everything. That turns, puts him in the car wash. Say, really great third act. It's like, okay, these guys might. Let's see if these guys can keep that up. So. Lo and behold, we're at the end of Steven Universe Future, so obviously it took. So, okay.
All right. Okay, so my number 10, and also Dragon, I want to mention one other thing that was difficult about this list, which is that Steven Universe is very much a show that had its golden age, and it fell off. So I think you and I can both agree seasons 2 and 3, to a lesser extent 4, I think you and me too. I mean, 4 was actually when it started to kind of drift. So I think, like when I do these lists, I usually like to have as big a variety as possible. For example, when I did my top 100 of the decade list for movies, I had 10 movies from each year. That's not going to be the case here, Dragon. Most of my list is going to be made up of season 2 and season 3 episodes. There's really not a big way that can be helped. It's just the majority of the peak Steven Universe content for me comes from season 2 and season 3. So I just want to put that out there.
Oh, something occurred to me before we go any further, Tiki. Maybe we should have some numbers set for things for posterity's sake. If you might want to take a moment just to kind of.
Dragon, we're not going to do that because of my computer issues.
All right.
I'm sorry. That would be too much work for my computer. It's just it wouldn't be worth the effort in case I drop.
We're going phonetic, kids. All right, hit 'em.
Sorry. Okay, so this is not an episode that takes place in say golden era though, Dragon. This is a season 1 episode, and it's all I want to do is see you turn into a giant woman, a giant woman. I'm going to be honest with you, Dragon. That song is so good and so memorable that this episode pretty much makes it onto my top 10 almost based on that alone. Almost. But the other reason why this episode is in my top 10 is because it's the first time we really see fusion, and it's the first time we really get introduced to the concept of fusion. And I love how this episode, it's not necessarily... like, it's not a big dramatic event. It's more so kind of like a casual, like, we're learning about the world, and they treat fusion as just another thing that happens and that Steven is curious about, and it leads to a really charming song, a really charming episode. Of course, there's some early drama between the crystal gems going on in there. I would say, arguably, this was a stepping stone episode, Dragon. This was an episode that, like, easily up until this point, it was the best song that the show had ever produced, I would say. And then also, it was the most interesting world building, the most interesting character development. I think this episode brought a lot to the table early on in the show's run. I think this was like somewhere in the 10s in terms of season 1 episode, like somewhere around episode 12 or something like that. So it really was, the season 1 really didn't start hitting its peak until like the late teens, but this was an early kind of glimmer of the greatness that was to come for me. So for that reason, I feel like this is a perfect number 10 is a perfect spot to put this episode.
Right, number 10 for me would be Restaurant Wars, which is from season 3, episode 12.
This has got to be a personal favorite for you because I'm not really a big fan of it. I mean, it's okay. I wouldn't consider putting it on the top 10 list, though.
And again, it was on the fringes with Catfinger, so it was kind of a toss-up. At the end of the day, I mean, I think I watched Restaurant Wars and maybe a little bit more all the way through than I do Catfingers. That's the differential there. Anyway, so here's the thing. Restaurant Wars is an episode I can rewatch from time to time. Not like on a daily basis by any means, but now and again, like I'd definitely go back to Restaurant Wars because I think it best captured the fun of the beach city setting and kind of the boardwalk culture. That was the thing I always really liked about it. Then of course we had a little bit of drama within the mundanity, which is always fun. It's like one of the few episodes Ronaldo works in with the whole, the fake dating the fake girlfriend subplot, which is pretty funny. But of course, really the favorite part of the thing, Steven's restaurant. Love Steven Universe. It's so adorable. He opens a little restaurant, little home restaurant. Isn't like that. It's like that Pokemon sketch from Just Giggling. No, seriously, it's basically Steven opens a restaurant. It's quite fun. I love waitress Pearl. I'm a sucker for Pearl. Is obviously my favorite gem character. I can't get enough of Pearl, and I just simply love it. We put Pearl in all these little situations, and basically the idea of the crystal gems are running this little restaurant out of the house. And you have I want to say Garnet's the wait staff, Amethyst is the chef, and Pearl is the waitress. And my God, waitress Pearl is just priceless. No substitutions. Kind of the fun, snooty waitress. I dig it. It's a great one-off. It's got a funny resolution. The whole basically kind of the two restaurateurs are kind of warring with each other the whole time, kind of prostrating themselves to the kid, like, please don't run us out of business. It's just hysterical, and also food animation for the win. Tiki and I are big suckers for food animation. He's more the real life foodie. I'm more the animated foodie, and I gotta tell you, folks, I was some really fun ideas in this one. Again, like just Kofi and the Fry families. Is it Fryman? Yeah, it's Fryman.
Fryman, yeah, it's Fryman. Yeah.
I was going to say Fry, but obviously that's ridiculous. It can't be Fry, but it's got to be Fryman. So, pretty much, I think again, if I were to ever just take one episode that kind of summarize like the Beach City culture and represent just kind of the whole boardwalk thing, it would be Restaurant Wars. So that's why I went with it. If I was going to take one to represent Beach City, it's got to be Restaurant Wars, no question.
All right, my number 9. I feel like this is going to be controversial, just because I feel like it's going to be controversial to place it so low. Is Sworn to the Sword.
This is a good one.
Yeah, this is of course the big Connie and Pearl training episode.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing about this episode for me that I love, besides the song, and once again, Claude, the songs are playing a big factor here. This is a fantastic song, and and it's definitely one of the reasons why this episode. I got to admit, if the song wasn't so good, I don't know if this would have made the cut. So yeah, the songs are definitely playing a role in my rankings here. But other than the song, though, it's just a really good kind of sort of breakdown of the lengths of devotion and how far you're willing to push yourself for someone, and what the breaking point of that is. And it's a really interesting character study. It's really the first time that we got a very dramatic story with Connie, because Connie up until this point, I feel, was just kind of like the supportive best friend character, and this was the first time where Steven, Steven's developing sort of a fear of what's going to, almost kind of like a Spider-Man style fear of what's going to happen to her. And, kind of like, and I like how it's a subversion, though. I like how, unlike Spider-Man, the, Connie in his life is very much kind of like the one that's out to save him. She's very much the opposite of a damsel in distress. So it's a nice subversion there. Of course, we get a lot of great Pearl action. We get Hollow Pearl for the win. A lot of good sword fighting, good training montages. Yeah, just overall a very, very good episode. People go gaga over this one, Dragon. I see this being ranked in the top 5 all the time. So
I was tempted to go with a different Pearl sword fighting episode when she teaches Steven how to sword fight, because it always has that very haunting moment where Pearl kind of dies in front of Steven. So,
oh my God, yeah.
But again, I could just pick an episode purely for that one moment. So. Also, Claude here says Pearl is one of the best singing voices in Steven Universe. This is indisputable fact, Claude. You're right. Let's see. Also, he's asking. He makes an excellent point. I mentioned Steven Universe future a little bit, but yeah, I love the whole Cookie Cat thing. How that kind of paid off in the grand finale of things here. We kind of called it all the way back to that Cookie Cat. Love it or hate it, the Cookie Cat star got the ball rolling.
Right.
Okay. All right. Okay. So number 9 then for me. That would be, it's going to sound like a sitcom here, but it's real, folks. 3 Gems and a Baby from season 4, episode 10.
I wish I still had that stupid laugh track sound that I used to have way back in the day. Yeah, you have a lot of the flashback episodes, Dragon. I'm really glad you took the bulk of those, because for me, like I said, a lot of my stuff is really, negated on how much fun I'm having with the episode and the songs and everything. And the flashbacks don't really have that all that much. They're not really fun episodes per se. They're very dramatic episodes.
Yeah, yeah, man. I've always, I'm a sucker for the dramatic stuff as much as the Pearl comedy, and just as much as kind of the general, kind of fun stuff. Because I mean, as much as I do talk up Pearl, I mean, Garner has some fantastic moments with Steven. There's a number of great runners to love in Steven Universe, and now Three Gems and a Baby, in particular, of course, also Christmas episode. Little fun fact. So it's kind of this cozy snowside story flashback episode. I love the comedy of the crystal gems and baby Steven, like not knowing exactly how the baby works. They're giving him gifts that are going to be for like when he grows up, but they're thinking like he can use them in the moment, like a razor blade and and like an encyclopedia and adult diapers. Like, oh god, this is ridiculous.
Oh, God.
So hijinks aside, the hijinks are quite fun. Basically, the idea and there's this hysterical thing. Amethyst is like one of the best lines in the thing, where it's just, "Yeah, we sure have nabbed you, bro." Like, basically, they kidnap Steven. As Steven's kind of questioning this in the midst of the story here. It's like, I have a lot of fun with the flashback factor here. Usually, when Greg goes in the story mode, we're kind of there for the whole duration, but we kind of break it up with some comedy. They're like, "Wait, you kidnapped me? Well, we didn't know what to do." Yeah, we sure have nabbed you. So it's so beyond just kind of the hijinks. There's a great story here about the acceptance of loss and the celebration of new life within. That's kind of what the whole episode's kind of coded into being, and I love it. Where gems have no idea how to treat a baby, therefore as they kidnap them, they kind of have a realization. Okay, this is not Rose as we're hoping. We're hoping amongst hopes we can get our friend back, but it ain't in the cards. And of course, the person who takes his hardest, Pearl. And Dee Dee Mango's performance. Folks, get ready to scratch the record on and on again, because I'm going to keep on saying, I love Dee Dee Mango and her performance as Pearl, because it's true, I do. She's really good. I love this. I love how fresh this is within kind of the wound of, like, again, this is Steven like a few months after he was born. In the birth of Stevens. This is really freshly coming out of that loss. And that's kind of the big takeaway with this episode for me. It's, trapped within the baby comedy is is this really great episode where you get to see the this is the big episode where they make the vow to be there for the kid like they were there for Rose. That's kind of a big moment. I love my dramatic vows being taken and being taken in stories, and this is a big moment. Also a little fun gag. I love when the baby Steven's grabbing Pearl's nose. Quite funny. In there too.
All right. Okay, number 8 for me, Dragon.
Oh, wait.
What?
So Claude had an excellent pull, man. I gotta shout this out. Pearl about to pull Steven's gem out was great foreshadowing to White Diamond. Excellent catch, Claudie. Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, number 8 for me, Dragon. This is like, to me, the ultimate Townie episode. It's Sadie Killer. Honestly, Dragon, I feel like I love this episode in the same way that you love Last One Out of Beach City, which is that this episode just has a vibe to it, the same way that Last One Out of Beach City does. This episode just, it's got just this punk rock aesthetic and vibe to it that I can just really relate to. I love the kind of the day-to-day monotony and grind that Sadie sort of parodies in her song, and I love that this is just a really big character growth episode for Sadie as a whole, because Sadie has always kind of been one of my favorite Townie people. And once again, the soundtrack playing a very important role in this episode. Obviously, we get several really good songs in this episode. Also, I fucking love the Cool Kids. In this episode, the Cool Kids really shine as the band members. And yeah, just like I said, just overall, it's just got this really great aesthetic to it. It's just I love Sadie's design when she's in the Sadie Killer getup. I love all the relationship drama. I actually do like the relationship drama between Sadie and Lars for the most part in this show. I think it's actually handled well. I think it's like it's not obnoxious in the same way that, like, let's say Beth and Jerry is or something like that. You know, it's I feel like it is a realistic kind of like on again, off again sort of hot cold friendship relationship. And we'll get to it in a pick coming up, but one of the reasons I really like I really like Sadie and Lars is that I feel like their character arc is actually has a very satisfying wrap up to it in Steven Universe Future, which we'll get to. So yeah, Sadie Killer and the Suspects, just a really really great song. Of course, the Working Dead, great song. Just overall a really good musical episode with a great kind of vibe and aesthetic to it that really does a good job of fleshing out a lot of the characters. It's yeah, I could go on and on about the punk rock aesthetic, but I'll kind of leave it there.
Okay. All right, number 8. Number 8 for me would be Tiger Millionaire.
Oh God, Dragon! Remember how hyped we were for Tiger Philanthropist, and frankly, that was a little bit of a nothing episode for me.
Okay, to be fair, I know we were very hyped up for Tiger Philanthropist, and again, it's still a fine episode. It was a bit of a toss-up, but when you go back to the original, I mean, we were hyped for a reason, kids. You know, Tiger Millionaire. I mean, oh my God, it's well, it was a toss-up to the Philanthropist. Remember, as Tiger Philanthropist, he was giving back. He was given back to the community. Anyway, so point being, we were
God,
as much fun as that was. You know, Tiger Millionaire though. This is the superior episode between the two. It's
oh no question, yeah.
It's a great bonding episode with Amethyst. Again, I love. It's just a genius idea for Tiger Millionaire as a character. The idea, it's just there's so much love it. This is Wall Street-esque. Basically, I always love the design of Tiger Millionaire most. Is the idea of this very Wall Street, very minimalist Wall Street-esque character. It was basically a Tiger industrialist who was basically made it big, presumably on Wall Street. He's just coming back after like his private family mines and everything. That's how he made his fortune. He's come back to kind of rub it in everyone's faces like Michael Douglas. Love it. So it's just a lot of fun there. And this whole basically we play around with like kind of bad guy wrestling, and it's hysterical. You know, a lot of clever gags. You know, like he's using like in helping her in the tag team bouts. So she's like this giant hairy muscular wrestler going up against everyone, and you have like just him kind of coming in with the tag team and impressing the heck out of Lars. I just love the dual identity thing where he's like, I'm pretty sure it's almost like Chicken Boo from the Animaniacs. But that's a chicken. Like, no, it can't possibly be a chicken. Crazy. I'm pretty sure it sounds like Steven. Like, no, Sadie, what are you, nuts? No, it can't be Steven. He's taller. Look at him. So just there's I love like Lars the fan and the whole redemption thing. After Steven kind of treats the fans badly, playing into the whole bad guy wrestler thing, bought all the sodas from the concession stand. At least it's just trouncing on him with galoshes. That's the thing. When I rewatch this thing, I'm having a hard time breathing because it's so funny. I really am. It's so funny. It's just so clever and so funny and so ridiculous. It's really hard to. It's really hard just not to love. It's all the fun conceived bad guy wrestler gags, and also we have this fun gag too where Steven does his impressions of Pearl and Garnet, which is also pretty funny, like how they react to the wrestling thing. Anyways, the point is this one's just it's a barrel of fun, no question. So I don't know if I could have put it really higher, but I definitely put it higher than like the bottom of the barrel there because I really do love this episode. We got so much mileage out of it. You know, how can you not? Just really clever stuff, good stuff. Just so funny.
All right, my number 7, Dragon. Your suffering is over. My number 7 is Onion Friend.
Oh God, this one I'm still okay. Tell them what's your favorite. Go on.
Okay, so Onion Friend is in my top 10. Dragon, I you know what? I'm just gonna come right in and say it. I kind of enjoyed this episode because of your misery, honestly.
Oh,
I'm being like I'm kidding, but like it's kind of like I like this episode because of how cringy it is, Dragon, because of how what the fuck is going on it is. This episode might be the most uncanny, bizarre episode of Steven Universe. I still want to one day cover it for Haunted Holiday Hijinks. I think it'd be a really fun, quote unquote, Halloween episode to cover. I feel like it's unconventional in the same way that Arnold Visits Arnie is unconventional. Oh man, I mean, this episode is just a roller coaster of weird, Dragon. Just a roller coaster of weird from start to finish. It really is just like, and I don't know, like Onion is a character where you and I kind of agree that, you know, probably. I mean, I would say that if I were making a Steven Universe character tier list, Onion's towards the bottom of the tiers, but he's not the bottom tier, Dragon. I would say the bottom tier is a Fifth Circle in Hell reserved exclusively for the Fryman brothers. Would you agree? Would you agree that at least Onion is a tier above the Frymans?
I don't. It's a messy conversation for me. I don't want to get into that.
Oh God!
There's something I don't trust this punk kid, man. I don't trust that Onion kid. I don't.
But you see, that's exactly why I love this episode, because this episode is like exactly why you shouldn't trust Onion. And of course, the sequel to this episode was shit, total shit. I remember that reaction video we did for Onion Gang. We were just sitting there in stone silence, being like, "What are we supposed to take away from this?"
Yeah, was not good.
But Onion Friend, it's not like, I admit, Dragon, it maybe is kind of veering into so bad it's good territory for me.
It's like a David Lynch episode of Steven Universe.
Oh, it's absolutely a David. That's a perfect way to. That's
kid's watching his own birthday. Why does he have a tape? Steven has a meaningful tape about his past. Why would he have a tape of his own birth? And he'd allow company to watch him. Why?
Oh God! I mean, that you just summed it up, Dragon. You just summed it up. I love the episode because of bizarre what the hell choices like that. I don't think I really need to say anything else. This episode is just a head trip, man. It really is, and
certifiable. I'll say that much. It is certifiable.
I honestly respect it for how far it goes. All right.
All right. So that's number 7, then, right?
Yes.
Number 7, When It Rains, which is let's see, that's from season 2. I gotta remember to every time when you in the past have said season 3 was like kind of the big standout season. Did you at all mean season 2? Because 2 and 3 kind of blend together for me.
I think season 3 is overall the best season, just because I feel like narratively it's the most airtight. But season 2's got a lot of highlights. Don't get me wrong.
If I remember correctly, isn't it that season 3 is mostly the diamond stuff, right? Isn't 3 mostly diamond?
Yes.
The diamond's coming towards the end of 2. That's what I can't recall. But
I think I think season 3 is mostly where the diamond stuff happens.
Right.
Okay. Or at least is introduced, because the end of season 2. The cluster season 2. Yeah, you're right about that.
Okay, so of course, second to Pearl, one of the favorite characters would probably be Peridot. Who doesn't love Peridot? Man, she's a national treasure. Everybody loves that Peridot character. It's the ultimate kind of character arc within Steven Universe, the grand scheme of things.
I would say Peridot is like unquestionably probably the best character arc.
Yeah, just exactly. Just how far she came. It's like kind of like she's like if you're putting Steven Universe in Dragon Ball Z terms, she's kind of like Vegeta in a sense, and that she came so far. Like Vegeta, or maybe a Krillin if you go all the way back to Dragon Ball, and that started with as
much like Vegeta, she ultimately devolves into comic relief by the end.
Yeah, if you want to look at it in that. But again, same could be said for a Krillin if you want to go full spectrum into things.
Oh,
anyway,
Krillin, but yeah, what they did, Vegeta's fun comic relief. What they did with Krillin is just sad.
Sure.
Anyway,
okay, so we got out of the DBZ of it all here, getting back to the Steven Universe, getting back to the SU of it all, the other star. So, yes, of course, this is the big, out of all the Peridot episodes, this to me is like, this is the big Peridot bonding episode with Steven. That's really, I think, kind of sets it against the others. You know, this episode, it's the, if I had to limit one Peridot episode, it has to be this one. Of course, Peridot, she's being kept prisoner after the Crystal Gems got rid of the limb enhancements and everything, so now she's kind of weak and helpless. And just like held prisoner inside the bathroom. I guess pretty much like she's locking herself in the bathroom. It's really not them even holding her prisoner. Really, it's like I guess she doesn't want to talk to him. She will not leave the bathroom. So a lot of great comedy there, and of course, one of my favorite Garnet bits is in this episode too, where I keep forgetting. I was so delighted to find. Oh yeah, it was this episode they put this gag in where, as the Crystal Gems leave to take care of some business, Garnet says, "Oh yes, one more thing, Steven." He says, "What?" And you look down, she's doing a little heart in the hands, think, "I love you," and then she disappears. Like,
Oh my God!
thing I've ever seen.
That is, yeah, that's one of my top tier Garnet moments right
That's
there.
what I'm saying, man. I mean, again, I didn't go with the Future Vision episode because I was very pleased about. Okay, that bit is here. I'm okay with
Honestly,
that.
neither of us have Jailbreak too, and Jailbreak is a huge Garnet episode.
Yeah, if we were doing songs, that one might be on there. You know, it's.
But that's the thing. I feel like Jailbreak is like kind of like for a similar reason why we didn't want to include stuff like Nightmare Hospital, is because Jailbreak really does like it can be summed up in that one song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Exactly.
anyways.
All right, so When It Rains, of course, the big standout for me, why When It Rains has to be on here outside just it's a Peridot episode, is the fact this episode, we have that rain sequence. That's the standout where Peridot, she goes out into the rain after Steven explains what the heck rain is. That's not scalding water falling from the heavens. Like, no, it's just water. And Steven's frolicking outside because she thinks it's the cluster or something with all the thunder and everything crackling. He goes out there, plays in the rain, and she sees the beautiful music cue plays. There's really a ephemeral kind of music cue plays. She just kind of puts her hand out there and it drips on her. And basically, this is Peridot kind of falling in love with the earth slowly but surely. And it's great. It's as she sees the beauty in the earth for the first time. And overall, this episode it's about redemption and showing the enemy. They got a really great moral at the core of it, Tegan, the DNA of this episode. Because the episode's, in essence, it's about redemption. It's about showing your enemy compassion and humanity, which leads to really positive results, ideally. And, of course, we have some fun just kind of Peridot lines. I think one of my all-time favorites of Peridot is the whole, a hybrid? Just Steven explains what he is. And, of course, we have some really fun back and forth between the two of them. You're like, you cracked! Like, I didn't crack! Just fun silliness like that. Again, fun Peridot dialogue. Basically, Peridot, when written right, especially in those the early like season 2 of it all, very much like it's like diluted Buzz writing. It's nothing but fun, like the diluted Buzz Lightyear kind of stance on things. And this is when this is when Peridot became a mainstay in many respects. It was a good one for us. A really solid episode.
Okay, my number 6 episode. This is like to me definitively the best episode of Steven Universe Future. And if the rest of Steven Universe Future had this solid writing, I think I would like it a lot better overall. And honestly, Dragon, this might be like definitively the most relatable episode of Steven Universe that there is for me. And that's Little Graduation. So what I love about this episode, Dragon, is that I feel like this is a fucking moral, like, forget about a kid show moral, Dragon. This is a moral that I need. Because I have always struggled with the idea of people moving on and becoming successful and me being left behind. That's been one of my main, oh God, Dragon, I have nightmares about it. I hate the idea of it. It's such a moral conflict because of course you want to see your friends succeed. You want to see the people you love go on to do great things, but by the same token, them being out of your life is an incredibly painful process. And this episode just illustrates that so beautifully, just so well. And not only that, but we get some really, really great townie stuff. This episode really is the kind of the townie episode of Steven Universe Future, and I love it for that. I feel like it's really solid all the way around and giving all the townies solid screen time. Of course, we catch up with Sadie, and I love the resolution with Sadie and Lars. I love how bittersweet that whole thing is. And I will admit that with the chef, I'm sorry, what's the name of the?
I think it's like Seth or something. It's not chef, but like Seth.
Yeah, it's something like that.
The point of being the new person, they're non-binary character at Sadie's.
I feel like that character was a little bit of like throwing in like, kind of like Rebecca Sugar politics into the mix. I mean,
I mean,
The
to be
character
fair, I
was
don't think any kid anywhere knows what non-binary is. Let's be honest.
I
But
mean,
now,
that's fine. The character is fine. I just feel like the moment would have been more powerful if Sadie herself would have talked to Steven instead of this new character that we just met. But I mean, other than that, it's just a really, really solid episode. Of course, we get more Sadie killer tunes, which I always appreciate. Uh I really do feel like the emotional breakdown Steven has in this episode is by far the most justified one in Steven Universe Future. I mean, I really, really feel for, like I said, Dragon. I like it would turn into a therapy session if I got into all the reasons, like emotionally, that I bond with this episode. It's such a struggle for me. It's a struggle that I'll probably have my entire life. The idea of people moving on and and leaving me behind while becoming successful, and that's like I said, I could go in circles, but yeah, man, really, really solid episode. I wish the rest of Steven Universe Future was as thought provoking.
okay. Oh, Claude has weighed in on your episode choice there.
Ah,
It says a little graduation shows you the type of feelings people might feel after graduating from high school. Very, very accurate. Yes.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, that's accurate, but I feel like I can apply it to any sort of number of situations, though, and that's why I like it so much. I mean, yeah, the high school graduation thing for sure, but anyways, I'm sorry, I could go on. Go
All right,
ahead.
episode 6. I mean, well, number
Number
6.
6.
Keystone Motel.
This is one that I really wanted to have, but I kind of figured I knew you liked it a lot too, so I figured I'd give it to you.
Yeah. Oh boy, Keystone Motels. This is a classic Greg showcase, if you ask me. This is like a showcase of why we love the Greg universe the way we do. And also, really nice Garnet episode. More accurately, Ruby and Sapphire episode, but still, Garnet together.
Well, I remember this was a really hyped up episode because this is the first episode since Jailbreak that we actually saw Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah,
So
second
the
time.
idea of Ruby and Sapphire was still kind of like a really novel concept.
Yeah. So of course, again, a lot of really great stuff here. Again, like if I had to pick like one again, because let me put it this way, my other Greg episode was a little taken, but the second Greg episode I'd go with would be Keystone Motel. I think he gets some of his best lines here. The idea was doing this little motel road trip, and I love how small the scale is here. It's like a mundane. It's like this mundane adventure to a kid, though. It's like we're going to a motel for free ice and pizza, and then going to the best diner ever. It's like again, he's very simply impressed by this, and again, it's a journey with Dad. Really nice. And basically, Greg, he basically he got these tunnel brushes from a Craigslist guy, and of course we have one of the best Greg Universe lines ever. I think Greg's delivery is like so spot on throughout this episode, like some of the best Greg Universe deliveries ever. Where he says, "If I'm not back in an hour, call the police." You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like some of the best Greg Universe stuff. It's so
oh
funny.
god, that was a spot on impression, Dragon.
That's what I'm saying. So in addition to all the hilarity with Greg, and of course, like a reminder, again, it's kind of like a Goofy movie situation. There's some Goofy movie-esque tones to this episode in many respects, in both a hilarious respect and the road trip capacity, but also into the emotional moments within, especially during kind of a little
The high dad soup of it all.
Yes, the high dad soup of it all, but also just kind of like the whole like my son respects me, that sort of that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've been chills just thinking about that scene. I got to distract myself now by talking about the episode again. So, seriously, of course, this is like Garnet at a very vulnerable spot right now after Pearl has betrayed her. I know, folks, it sounds like heresy. What do you mean Pearl betrayed her, folks? It happened. Believe me, it did. This is the episode's about the fallout about that. Where Pearl has kind of used Garnet, and of course, this really destabilizes her fusion. And basically, it's a really relatable argument that Garnet is having. I think we've all had this argument at some point in our lives, where it's like, Ruby is of the temperament of like, why do we always have to be the bigger person? I'm tired of being, the bigger person versus Sapphire, the calm, cool, collected one, looking towards the future, looking forward. We got to forgive and forget and move on. It's eventually what you're going to do. Just acknowledge that I'm right, and we can get be back to Fuse and be back to being Garnet. So very fascinating stuff. That's real kind of narrative strength of the episode is along with kind of Steven and Greg along for the ride when they're just kind of going on this fun. Like this is the proper. We talk about this all the time. When we do Big Hero 6. Big Hero 6 many a time has a problem where we have two plot lines just don't mix up sometimes. Good plot.
Oh yeah.
They don't jive. These two fit in really well. And basically what we do with this so brilliantly is outside the square pizza gag, which is very funny. And again, it breeds the other great Greg Universe line. Son, there will come a point in time you'll learn to accept all pizza. Where it all boils down to the diner scene. Again, the very Goofy movie-esque diner scene where essentially Steven gives them perspective.
Oh man, we're talking food animation. That Goof movie diner scene has some of the most memorable food animation, man.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh
and again,
god, that bacon and eggs.
And we're kind of aping it in a kind of a more of a story capacity here, which is still pretty nice. Where again, it's about the meaningful. Like, this is the big highlight of the trip, and Ruby and Sapphire's bickering has ruined it, and he just like smashes the breakfast. Like, it's like the possum hat from Goofy movie, man. Anyway, the point is, this is really. It's just a smart, connected kids who are going through their own domestic disputes of some variety. And it's kind of like a kid going through a divorce, or just kind of like a kid with a bickering parents. And I love how that kind of gives both Ruby and Sapphire perspective. It's just a really well-conceived, really well episode. It's just firing all cylinders in the way you hope it does. It's just really good. You wish there was a little bit more Garn in there, but the whole point of the episode is about what goes in the Garn. So in that respect, still fantastic episode.
All righty. Okay, Dragon, my number 5. Get into the hashtag top 5, baby. My number 5 is On the Run. This is, I think, pretty definitively the best Amethyst episode, or at the very least, like, very much so the first episode where Amethyst is, kind of like the central highlight. But Dragon, man, this episode establishes a lot. This is really the first episode that gives us a big emotional breakdown of one of the gym characters. And to see Amethyst struggle with her identity in the way that she does in this episode is a big, big highlight for me. Now, I'm almost kind of leaning towards that sort of philosophy where the Amethyst breakdown is almost like so memorable that the rest of the episode kind of falls by the wayside. But I don't really think so, because I feel like the first half of this episode is a pretty fun and pleasant, almost kind of like Road to-esque episode, like road trip. And then the second half, when we get to the kindergarten, it's just fascinating stuff. And Dragon, you know that I've always loved the kindergarten as a location. I think it's honestly probably the best single location that the show ever came up with, just conceptually. I love the idea of it. And so to get that for the first time and to explore it in such a creepy concept, and and just the Amethyst breakdown of it all, and how, of course, Steven is feeling isolated from the gems, and Amethyst and Steven are bonding over that the whole episode. I mean, this episode really is the one that ratcheted up everything in season 1. I really think so, because after that, we got a ton of great episodes that season 1 kind of ended on a bang, and this was really the start of that. Man, I mean, I just conceptually, like I said, I really love the breakdown of Amethyst's character. And honestly, I do think that this is almost kind of like the peak of Amethyst in terms of, like, I don't really think that she gets this self-serious ever again in the show. I mean, there's a couple arcs with her, but I really feel like this is the peak of, like, the emotional struggle that she goes through. And I honestly think it's kind of a shame that we don't get more of a follow-up to it throughout the show. Because, yeah, I mean, it's some powerful stuff, man. It's some heavy-hitting stuff. So, yeah, this episode really, I think it's much like how Giant Woman kicked off my top 5 with Giant Woman was kind of like introducing the structure of like, this show's got really fun songs and really cool concepts. This episode is kind of Giant Woman kicked off my top 10. Mm-hmm. This song, this is kicking off my top 5 with just showing an episode that really just showed you kind of like the pure emotional stakes. And just it really took the real building and conceptualization of the universe and really just notched it up to the next level. I love this episode. I really do. All right.
All right, my number 5. Number 5 would be A Single Pale Rose.
Big one. Big one.
Yeah, so another way of phrasing this, of course, is a season 5 episode, and again, it's kind of fun. I was able to kind of incidentally cover at least an episode or so per season, so it was kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so this, of course, is a big season 5. It's a big revelation-y season 5 episode. I believe it was like 18 in season 5.
This might be the most controversial episode on either of our lists.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, this got a ton of controversy when it first came out.
I kind of refer to this one as Pearlception, in a sense. It's kind of Pearlception. This is a big reveal episode, obviously, for the rose, kind of the rose of it all. But again, like, it's also kind of a really great introspective, literally introspective Pearl episode. I really love that. So Pearl, she gets her first phone. We have like the really great case gag. Like, Pearl has this little briefcase that she keeps herself. She plans on keeping her cell phone. Quite funny. So, basically, Steven here, he thinks that essentially, from the events of the last couple episodes, he's been kind of thinking, oh, God, he's thinking back to his trial that he had on Homeworld, like, oh, God, there might have been, like, Pearl might have been the guy in the grassy knolls for the shattering of Pink Diamond. I got to know what happened here, man. So basically, he wants to have a conversation with Pearl that she very literally cannot have. She can't say anything. So this leads to a journey inside Pearl's head to find her phone, which would lead to the truth. Basically, journey inside of Pearl to find the truth. So we have this great look into Pearl's psychology, which I love. And again, we keep going further and further in the past each time. And again, it's kind of the old Pearl in the bottom of the hole in the bottom of the sea. Essentially, it's a pearl inside a pearl inside a pearl inside a pearl, etc., etc. We go very much pearls deep, man. We go like a triple inception, if you will. Because we go, let's see, I love how each layer we go, there's like a deeper level to Pearl as well. It's just going deeper into the past when you think about it. We start off in kind of the OCD, very much kind of what you see is what you get, Pearl. Why we love Pearl, man. She's very organized. Like, where do I put my Steven now that he's here? That sort of stuff. Then we go to Pearl in reacting to a baby Steven, the fact that what Rose plans to do, which again really crestfallen with. And we go even deeper in that to the PTSD Pearl from the battlefield, Pearl who's lost people, and of course like what started all this. And of course, as we know as we go deeper, she was there for what started all that with the big shape-shifting into, again, it's the reverse narrative structure is really great is what I'm getting at here in the long and short of it, I guess. Shattering her via the shapeshift into Rose Quartz, therefore framing her as kind of a war criminal, of course, leads ultimately to the why. So we learn that Pearl's role is key in starting everything from the relationship that she forged with Rose Quartz. It's the fact that broke major conventions, her being the servant to her being the master, and again they both really kind of shook things up there with her again being a diamond and a pearl, and then kind of rejecting her diamond heritage to kind of get out from under the thumb of Homeworld. Really good stuff there, and we reveal the shattering was a hoax. So Pink Diamond could become Rose Quartz. Huge reveal. Big feather in the episode's cap, whether you love it or hate it. I don't mind it. I think it's I think it makes sense. It gets us all the diamond stuff we get later, so I'm perfectly fine with it. I'm sure Spinell might have a different opinion, but that's how it goes. So the episode, really at the end of the day, the episode's about this honor-bound Pearl who, as we know, takes care of everyone per her divine purpose in a sense, and we ease the burden that she's carried for so long with this loophole of show don't tell. And we have this beautiful moment at the end where she removes the hands from her mouth, like I couldn't say anything. And of course now Steven knows, and there's like such a comfort in that moment. And basically the episode's kind of about how we bury pain and memories, and how the right people can turn that into, basically in putting our faith in the right people, we can turn all of that into catharsis when it comes out the right way. And it's a beautiful episode for Pearl and Steven kind of learning a little bit about each other, and it's again, the storytelling's very strong as it's as it kind of regresses each jump. Just really good stuff. There's a really well structured episode for the review, and of course it cuts off right at the reaction point too. So it's one of those episodes, more like kind of the lead-in episodes, and they suddenly say, "What? Pink Diamond? What?" That's where it ends. Practically a mic drop. What do you know?
All right. Okay. Number 4 for me, Dragon. This is the season 3 finale. And honestly, it's a big part of why I think season 3 is the best season, because I feel like it just ends on such a fucking dramatic note. And that is Bubbled. And Dragon, I love how season 3, it starts with the episode that's going to be my number 3, spoiler alert. And it ends, the episode that's going to be my number 3 is like this big sort of like cataclysmic action scene. And then it ends with this. It ends with like quite literally a bottle episode, a bubble episode, if you will. Where it's just Steven floating out in space with one of the antagonists, and the antagonist just getting into Steven's mind about Rose and about everything. And oh man,
the episode's bubbled, by the way, just to get it in there too. Yeah.
Did I not say it?
I don't think you. I think you mentioned he was bubbled. I don't think you said bubbled.
I could have sworn I. Yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry.
Point being, bubbled. Keep going.
Yeah. It's just such a good finale. It's just such a dramatic finale. And I honestly don't know if the show reaches a bigger dramatic high point than this. I mean, this is certainly the latest chronologically that my list goes in terms of like, you know, it's only going to be early season 3 episodes and season 2 episodes from this point out. But well, actually, that's not true. I have a season.
Point is, this is a really good one. I wanted this on my list too, but we all have to make compromises in the real world, kids.
Would you like to speak to it a little bit? Because I don't really have a ton to say about it beyond just the fact that it's. I just love the structure of it. I love how self-contained yet incredibly dramatic it is. It's like a good play.
Yeah, that's the thing. In regards to it being just such a good play of these really great performances and just kind of these arc of these two diametrically opposed characters. You know, Eyeball, you know, the Ruby with a grudge, let's call it. You know, the Ruby who, again, Steven perceives though she just wants to meet Rose Quartz, and of course, in reality, has a bone to pick with Rose Quartz because Rose Quartz, as Steven learns, I believe for the first time here, shattered Pink Diamond.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that big reveal is just kind of like the you know, the pillar in which the season 3 finale kind of sits on.
Exactly, and it's just it is. I mean, the structure again is very iron tight. Just the fact these two characters, very 4 days out or fly, if you will, just very much bubble episode, just kind of stuck hurtling through space and just have to try to learn to get along here. Steven's trying to make amends, where Eyeball is just she's going for the kill, and there's nothing Steven can. The big moment for me is the big climax where Steven just kind of chucks Eyeball out for his own survival and has to live with that.
Oh yeah,
choice.
absolutely.
And again, in a sense, with the revelation you just heard about his mother, which he's also contending with, again, he's kind of continuing the cycle in a sense. Because I mean, again, we know Eyeball's going to be fine. We didn't know that in the moment, though. The fact is, like chucked Eyeball out, and is kind of sitting there. And then with one of the best things ever in the series, when we actually play the end theme song within the episode. Or we have the big. I love the silent reunion as we just play. Rebecca Sugar singing. It's fantastic. And then seriously, one of the best endings to any of the Steven Universe episodes, where Garnet just kind of saying, "Your mother did what she did, so we could be ourselves." Basically, so Pearl could be free, so Amethyst could be born, and so I could be, who I was always meant to. Again, it's beautiful sentiment there, and again, living with the sins of your parents, and again, like the travesties of war in a sense. Really strong stuff. Again, excellent ending to a season.
Very heavy-hitting episode, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you're number 4, Dragon.
My number 4, Lion 3, straight to video.
Big one. Yeah, yes, once again, a flashback episode that I really wanted, but I feel like you can really speak to the flashback episodes quite well. So,
if we were doing a best list, you believe it, folks, this would definitely be on there. It might even be a little high. I don't know. Maybe it might be higher. The point being, absolutely would be on a top 10 list, and of course, even a favorite list, man. Because how could you not love this one? I believe it was an Emmy-nominated one too.
I'm sure it was, yeah.
So, good. So much stuff here. So this episode has a little bit of everything with Steven Universe, a little bit of all the cells in it, in a sense here. That's one of the big takeaways here. So you have like Lion shenanigans with basically Steven's trying to sleep and Lion just keeps jumping on top of him for what reasons? Why? Why is this Lion just like is being like hard to train or something? Like what's going on? You keep smothering the kid in his sleep. And he has this recurring dream, of course, not a recurring dream at all, transporting him to a magical this magical little pocket dimension within the lion fur. Okay. Pretty cool. So what I like is that I love the subversion built into that story, kind of our lion shenanigans story, with the real stories about Rose and Stephen, about the son being connected to the mother past her, after her passing, or in quotes, her transformation to him, and, the whole thing. So again, we have shenanigans, we have the theme of motherhood. That's a really big thing within the story, and some of the best Sadie stuff as well. Some of my favorite Sadie stuff's in this episode too, with her. The running narrative with Sadie being, she kind of like writes, "Oh yeah, my mother makes me these lunches I don't really need," and of course this kind of builds the thing where Sadie is integral to Stephen finding the tape that is kept within kind of Lion's kind of pocket dimension there. And of course, that leads to the huge kind of cathartic moment, which I'll get to in a second. But again, that kind of inspires Sadie to call her mother, and it's a beautiful little moment there. So really strong Sadie stuff. In addition to that, one of my favorite Pearl gags is in this episode too, where Pearl is like getting Lion off Stephen so he doesn't suffocate, and it's like, Pearl, what are you doing here? I like to watch you sleep sometimes. Sometimes I mean often.
Oh God.
So I love that, and again, Stephen trying to sleep. And there's this adorable moment, Tiki. I don't know if you remember. It's just so adorable. Where Steven's like shooing them both out of the room, and when he shoots like Pearl out of the room, she's like crawling out of the room with a big smile on her face. It's the most adorable thing I've ever seen. Oh God. And anyway, so the point being, we find the hiding spot, and again, we queue up so many things that are going to be important in the series, because we see the Mr. Universe T-shirt, we see the tape, we see the sword, big thing for Connie, the flag, which is going to pay off by Steven Universe future with Bismuth, and of course, Bismuth herself.
Yeah.
And Lion as a transport, of course, is going to pay off in the large story. A lot of things queued up here for the grand course of the series. This episode had so much to take away from it. And again, in addition to just like fun Pearl bits, let's get to the meat and potatoes of it all here, kids. The tape. The tape is a very human and moving thing. One of Susan Egan's finest performances as Rose.
I would say it's probably like one of the more iconic moments of the whole series.
It is, absolutely. I mean, it's our first like legit glimpse at Rose. I mean, I think at this point we may have had the story for Stephen episode. I'm not sure. I can't remember if this is the very.
I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah.
But yeah, this is like the here's the big takeaway. The big reason this is important. It's like the closest thing Stephen's ever going to have to a real conversation, or like a real interaction with his mother, which is huge.
It's like the really Onward tape.
It is. It is.
Except a lot more specific.
Yes. Again, well, one's audio, one's VHS.
Well, yeah.
That's kind of, yeah. Anyway.
Well, I'm saying one's like literally just someone messing around, and one's anyways, you get my point.
Anyway, so seriously, this is like we glimpse what won her over to humanity's side with Greg in this tape. I mean, Greg is so wonderful in this tape too, just kind of like doing the whole Mr. Universe shtick and the thing. He's uncomfortable. He says, "No, wait, if we're gonna do this tape, we gotta do it right. Give me the star wipe." And we're playing with the camera, like the fun star gag going on there. This is the only real conversation she'll ever have with Steven. It's very much like, I'm gonna give you an analogy here. It's like another Emmy-nominated episode. It's like the Rugrats Mother's Day episode.
Oh yeah, very much so.
It's like the letter that was written to Chucky. Essentially, that's what it is. We can't, basically saying such great dialogue here. We can't both exist, but I'm half of you. I'm part. You're half of me. I'm half of you. This is something. Basically, this is something she could never be. You're going to be something I could never be. You're going to be human. Again, this is Steven basically realizing he's her dream realized. Being human, becoming what you've fallen in love with, but you can never become. You can't have a normal family unit. You can't. But again, this is something even more. It's such genius and moving writing, and it's also really poignant is the fact that Greg doesn't know. He probably doesn't know what all that's attached to this. He probably does not realize at this point while he's being recorded, just kind of so nonchalantly, that this very important conversation is happening between mother and child, and like, you're going to survive me. It's just such moving, cathartic stuff, man. Just excellent stuff.
All right, well said. All right, Dragon, I've been going back and forth between my number 2 and my number 3 for a long time. I mean, you know what my number 1 is. We all know what my number 1 is, but
yeah, I know what your number 1 is.
I mean, I'm still stuck between my number. I think I'm going to switch it last minute. I'm going to switch it last minute. My number 3 is going to be Message Received. And Dragon, the reason why is because of that whole philosophy we're talking about, where honestly, I don't remember a ton of this episode outside of the big Yellow Diamond confrontation. I really don't. but the Yellow Diamond confrontation in itself is a landmark moment for the show. I love it. It's the reason why we all kind of fell in love with Peridot, and it's like Peridot became a crystal gem in that moment. It's such a great cathartic, like, come on, Peridot calling Yellow Diamond a Claude. I mean, oh my god, it's such a fucking good payoff. Not only that, Dragon, not only that, I love this episode because of what the potential it represented that unfortunately I really don't think the show fulfilled at all. And the potential that I'm talking about is with how intimidating the Diamonds were. Honestly, Dragon, I'm one of those people where I think the Diamonds, by the end of the fucking run of the show, the Diamonds are a joke. I really do.
Well, they did turn into the in-laws by Steven Universe Future, but I mean, the crazy extended family, but you know.
But I'm saying, like, it's a joke. It's a joke. And Yellow Diamond being as intimidating as she is, I love the design of her. She's got kind of this like vaguely like Daft Punk kind of aesthetic to her. Man. And then just the big Peridot kind of telling her off. And of course, the rest of the episode is mostly just the tension of, is Peridot going to turn on the Diamonds, right? Or they turn on the what side is Peridot going to choose?
Yeah,
right?
they think it. Look, the evidence suggests basically Peridot's trying to contact the Diamonds to make a case for the Earth, but they don't believe her because they think she's just going to turn the crystal gems over to the Diamonds. That's what they anyway.
Right. So yeah, like I said, the rest of the episode really not that standout. But that last few minutes is just like iconic. It's iconic Peridot. It's iconic in terms of how it introduced the Diamonds in a way that was so badass that they honestly probably didn't have much of a chance of living up to it in future appearances. I mean, yeah, it's great stuff. But unfortunately, my top 2 episodes are just really, really iconic episodes all the way through. So that's why I have to slot this in at number 3. But like I said, Dragon, the Peridot stuff in this episode is so good that I almost wanted to put it at number 2 just for that alone. So that just goes to show how good of a Peridot episode this is.
Okay.
All right.
Number 3 for me. Episode I've pronounced so wrong for so many years, but I'm going to get it right this time. So many birthdays. I always say too many birthdays, but it is so many birthdays. Anyway, I still think too many birthdays is better because he is too many birthdays. That's the problem. Anyway, the point being so many birthdays. Of course, this is going all the way back season 1. I think season 1, episode 13. So this and Catfingers were the episodes that sold me on the series. Catfingers kept me on the hook, but this episode is what fully sold me. Okay, I got to see what happens next.
Sure.
So Steven Universe, this is in the early seasons of Steven Universe, particularly season 1, mainly season 1, which got me a really long extended seasons, those early ones for Steven Universe. Getting into the whole syndication numbers of it all, and the whole like 11 minutes a pop sort of thing. Anyway, so this Steven Universe always had, and I can never prove that he worked on this show, but Steve Stark, he's an animator. He did all of Kevin Smith's animated shorts. Jay and Silent Bob's Super Groovy cartoon movie. That's the Steve Stark style. If you look at Steven Universe, the early seasons, especially, and this one as well, has that Steve Stark animation quality. That's the stuff that initially scared me off of Steven Universe. So even within that, even that we're still kind of in these early seasons. I'm not saying that's the kicker. It's like this is the episode where I'm looking at that. It's like I don't know about this animation style, but the content of character and story was so strong in this, it made me look past that, and that's what kind of kept me on the hook going forward. So, again, that along with the Catfinger stakes within the absurdity, like these are the elements that kind of really compelled me with this episode. Like I got to keep on. I got to see what's going on here. Where we take a simple premise.
My big sell initially with the premise was kind of the whole Batman of it all, where the existence of the crystal gems is kind of what's causing the villains to appear.
Yeah, and in retrospect, I don't know if that really took, but I remember.
I don't think it did. I don't think it did. Yeah.
Yeah, not really. I think you were trying to point me on that documentary that one time, and it just did not work.
Right.
The Keep Beach City Weird episode when we were at that. That's probably gave you the idea for that analogy. I don't know. Anyway. So, anyway, the point being, is this episode, very simple premise. Steven's throwing the gems a birthday party after learning, they're thousands of years old. Like, oh, look at all the forgotten birthdays. We got to catch up with that. We got to celebrate that, man. So, we have some really fun birthday comedy, which is just priceless. The best of which, of course, Pearl's party. Oh
yeah.
God,
Oh,
Pearl's
yeah.
party. Seriously, this episode makes the reason this episode's so high up. Again, we're going by favorites here. Like, is Lion 3 straight to video better than this episode? Without question. But is this a really fun episode that I have a lot of love for? Yes, I mean, before we even get to the stuff that I really love about this episode, just the comedy of it all just cracks me up. It's just the clown, like Steven tries to be a birthday clown for Pearl. He tries reading these jokes to her, and he's just bombing because Pearl just her sense of humor isn't quite there yet. And like saying, like, hey, why did Pearl throw butter out the window? And it's just like, did you really do that? It's like she can see butterflies. And of course, Pearl's response is, Steven, why are you lying? And then it gets better with the whole, like, Steven going for, okay, whenever you're in doubt, if we learn anything from Gallivantic, it's whenever you're in doubt, whenever you're in a bind, go for a pie in the face. People eat up the pie. Baby wants pie. Everyone loves the pie, man. You always go for the pie in the face. Steven, it goes for the pie, and just Pearl's horrified by the, like, hey, Pearl, do you like pie? I do like pie.
I do like pie.
So sincerely, and she's so terrified by the melty pie face. Oh, God, anyway. So that already is enough for it to be up there. But again, meat and potatoes of it all here, folks. Climax is everything. The big sell of the show for me has always been the gems as the motherly figure to this kid. And this episode shows like they're in the depths of panic when Steven inadvertently his gem has been acting up and kind of aging him up as he's kind of putting everything in perspective about growing up and kind of the shape shifting link to the emotional state. I love how he chews out Lars, by the way. That's really funny too. Or just chews out Lars like as a middle-aged man. It's just really funny. So seriously, Climax, everything. Climax is the big cat fingers it all for me here too. Where like the gems are the motherly figures that are just panicking and helpless, trying to throw Steven these off the cuff birthdays after he kind of gave him a taste of what it was like in the failed attempts from earlier, and they're trying to save him because he's aging rapidly. He's like to the point where he's probably going to die. And again, this is what I'm saying. They really earned so much credit with me. He's like, we had some really funny stuff in this episode, but then we're going so opposite end of the spectrum here, where despite having sad clown Pearl, which is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in life, just Pearl just biting herself in the face. What are you trying to do? Kill him faster? We have the sad sack look to camera as a pie-covered clown Pearl, just hysterical. But it's the POV shot of Steven there. And Steven's like, he's almost like, it's like a Saving Private Ryan shot, like a POV after he's been hit by a grenade or something. It's like you see him like from his eyes as he's like withering and possibly dying of old age in the moment there as the gems are bickering. And it's like, that's the hook of it right there. This show is on to something, man. They can have their cake and eat it too. They can have their pie and eat it too, man. Like this episode celebrates the core of the show and why I stuck with it till the end, man. This is everything. It was like all the potential of the show is always crammed right in this episode. A little bit of everything, comedy, drama, and again, the sell of like these gems are there, and they're unqualified to do this show, but they're going to be there for this because they promised. And I love it.
All right. Well said, Dragon. My number 2. This is a pretty damn iconic episode for none of the reasons that you stated in terms of like the dramatic tension or the emotional complexity. No, Dragon. This episode is great for 3 words. 3 words, Dragon. And those 3 words are Dragon Ball Z. Super Watermelon Island is the most Dragon Ball Z inspired thing that is ever Dragon Ball Z, Dragon, and that's why I love it so much. I honestly don't even know what else I can say about it, because the episode really is just one big fucking BBZ style fight scene. But that's exactly what makes it so great. It's just, oh man, it's such a good anime style battle. I mean, does it like live up to the hype of like some of the best DBZ fight scenes? No, not really. But, you know, in terms of just being a great, like, recreation of the style of DBZ, I respect this episode so much. And then, of course, Dragon, we barely mentioned Jasper throughout all this, and Jasper really is you know, a great kind of supporting villain, and she was sort of the initial big bad of the show all those years ago. And so this is like a wonderful Jasper episode. Of course, a great, you know, obviously Jasper and Lapis both have chance to shine as the main kind of opposing kaiju fusion. I love the setting of the Watermelon Steven Island. I love how it's kind of like this innocent bystander island that, you know, like, it's the ultimate sort of like, we don't want casualties here. You know, we like these Watermelon Stevens are the ultimate like innocent race. And then like you see in that kind of like bottom left hand corner of the screen here, folks, with that image of the Lapis and Jasper fusion kind of rising out of the water with the tiny Watermelon Steven. God, such an iconic shot. That is honestly one of my favorite shots in the entire show, just because of how just how much it represents the stakes and the high scale of everything. And yeah, like I said, I really don't have much to say about this one, but I rank it so high just because of the DBZ of it all. I mean, it really is that good at sort of capturing that kind of like action, fight choreography, cartoon aesthetic. And it really is probably the best action-centric episode of the show. And honestly, Dragon, this is just kind of throwing a lot of shade at later seasons of the show, but, you know, fuck all this huggy nonsense. This is how you handle a dispute, all right? This is the kind of action I want to see in this show, not this, like, this pacifist bullshit, all right? Like, this, I'm sorry, I'm firing some shots here, all right? It's true, though. It's true.
Forget like peace. Punch him in the face.
No, but I'm just saying, like, this is so much more satisfying on a narrative and just on an animation level. It's so much more satisfying. And it's a great build-up. I love how it's the opening episode. It kicks everything off of season 3, and I do think that season 3 is the best season. Yeah, just overall, it's just a fantastic action set piece, and that's all I can say. It's honestly, I would go as far as to say, Dragon, this might be one of the best action-centered episodes of any animated show of the 2010s that I can think of personally. And keep in mind, I don't watch any sort of anime. I'm sure there's anime out there that just completely trumps all over this. But I'm just saying, in terms of, like, you know, the animated shows that I've been exposed to, this might be one of the best pure action-centered episodes. All right.
Okay.
Big statement there.
Yeah. Okay, so all right, episode. Okay, number two. Number 2 for me. Last one out of Beach City. So, boy, oh boy, this is a really good one. This I adore this episode so much. This is from season 4, episode 6. This is basically the best way I could summarize this one. This is an indie movie featuring Pearl, and that statement alone is awesome. Indie movie about Pearl. I just love the structure of this one. Again, as you kind of said, a little bit of it's like a punk rock indie movie of some sort.
So basically, you love this episode in the same way that I love Super Watermelon Island for being a Dragon Ball episode.
If you want to equate it like such, sure.
Yeah.
See, this is this is kind of a sequel to an episode we're going to be talking about shortly. This is sort of like Pearl moving past kind of events from season 3, her last big kind of stand-up episode from season 3. And she's trying to be the kind of the cool mom figure, as it were. She's trying to be kind of like get out of her shell. She's trying to be cool. She's trying to like not be all wound tightly as she is. And we love her being wound tightly and everything. She's I love seeing Pearl out of her element and breaking rules, again, going the full indie movie of it all. Just have these three characters. Literally, one of the best parts of the episode, too, is like the end credits. That's saying something. The end credits being like we kind of cut at the zenith of things, that we have like the indie movie credits to each character and who essentially which cliche they were. Where we literally have, let's see, I think I have it here. So Pearl was the repressed nerd, and then we had Amethyst as the ultimate wingman. Steven was the voice of reason, and you had the mystery girl as herself. Just fantastic. Oh boy! So it's I love the design of Pearl here, like Rebel Pearl. With the jacket and the kind of the vague Nirvana jacket, the pants, the driving the car, like drinking the apple juice. Like, I'm gonna do some drinking tonight, drinking apple juice. Say, we have that? She's getting in the car chases with cops and just crazy and wonderful, the whole thing. And we have like Pearl, some of her finest, most awesome moments here. Where I have like this. This is why we buckle up, and like, yes, that's my Pearl right there. Yes. Breaking the rules so mundanely, but making it awesome. And again, just Pearl, she rocks, and just and she's give her all the Pearl points for this episode, man. Give her all the Pearl points. This episode, it's a great showcase of Dee Dee Mango.
Oh my god, I could have mentioned the Pearl points when I brought up Sworn to the Sword. Now I feel dumb.
Were Pearl points in that episode?
I'm pretty sure the Pearl points were established in that episode. I want to say.
Maybe. Okay, anyway, moving on. So anyway, here's what I was getting at. Right. So Dee Dee Mango, again, as I said, she continues to impress in the role here. Again, it's like kind of taking her out of her element, doing a lot of fun stuff with the role here. It's nice to see. Again, Pearl kind of, she's pursuing this pink-haired mystery girl, and it's nice to see like things work out for her by the end with that too, which is is quite nice. She's been like Pearl's been a criminal for 6,000 years, and she's kind of manifesting it, but at the same time, she's herself at the end of the day, and that gets her everywhere. Honesty gets her everywhere with the mystery girl. She's able to move on, move forward again, be kind of the rebel Pearl that she was the whole time, but on her own terms. It's a great one-off story, a lot of fun. It's it's a relatable story with kind of a genre flair to it all. So I can't get enough of this episode. Of all the Steven Universe episodes I rewatched, this is definitely like the top 5, as you probably guess by it being in the top 5 for favorites. So there you go.
All right, so my number 1 is, it's really no surprise. Dragon, say it with me.
Hey, shake a leg.
Hey, shake a leg.
It's Mr. Greg.
It's Mr. Greg. And he's gonna spend his dough all over the place.
That's right, folks. We're going to Empire City.
Yeah, I mean, how can this not be my number 1? How can this not be my number 1? And Dragon, I know for a fact that this would be your number 1 too.
Yes, it would.
This episode is it's just a tour de force. It's the ultimate kind of culmination of everything that the show set out to accomplish. It did that midway through its run, which is why I think people don't look back as fondly on the show as they should, honestly. But yeah, this is the peak. This is the peak. This is the greatest episode. Yeah, Claude, it's pretty obvious.
Claude, you called it. Yep, absolutely. That was the number 1. Again, one of our mutual favorites, no question. Mr. Greg is it's a masterpiece. I mean, Pearl and Top Hat and Tails, man. How can you top it, really?
I mean, I love how this episode is just a straight up musical from top to bottom, because of course It's Over, Isn't It is it's the best Steven Universe song. I think you can agree to that.
Yes, easily. It's Over, Isn't It? Just such a powerhouse of a song, and Dee Dee Mango's finest singing performance as well. And again, just overall, again, I don't know. I'm just talking of Dee Dee Mango like there's no tomorrow. But seriously,
it's very good.
She's really good.
But yeah, what I love about this episode is I feel like this episode almost has a light series finale quality to it. Because throughout
a lot of Steven Universe and, building up to this, there was a lot of tension between Greg and Pearl. And this episode just does such a beautiful job in 10 minutes of just wrapping everything up with that, and just kind of and I will never forget just how floored I was by the fact that it is a 10-minute episode. It's for the most part completely sung through. And by the end of it, when they're driving back to Beach City and Steven's singing that refrain, "It's over, isn't it? Isn't it?" And I love it. I love it so much. It literally gives me goosebumps. I mean, if the show ended right there, it's almost kind of like the Walter White, like, perfect moment to die. You know what I mean? It's like, if I wouldn't have lived a second longer, that would have been the perfect moment. It's like, oh man, it's such a high note. It's such an emotional high note. And yeah, I'm a big musical theater guy. I really am. And so just the fact that, like I said, this basically is just a big musical episode from top to bottom. The animation is great. I feel like the animation this episode is much more consistent than it usually is. I feel like they went all out on it. Of course, I love all the poses and dramatic streaks to the "It's Over, Isn't It" song. Okay, I'm going to read Claude's comment here. Mr. Greg helped me to see Rebecca Sugar was able to add a ton of songs in one story, which became really helpful when it came to making the movie. Yeah, Claude, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I really like about the movie as well, is the kind of the sung-through element of it, for sure. But
again,
honestly, I mean, go ahead.
But you're right. Again, the wrap up to that kind of the ever present kind of elephant in the room within Steven Universe of, again, Greg and Pearl. They kind of had both fell for the same character, and again, there's always been kind of that tension with them. We kind of finally call that out and then kind of make it into this grand musical, kind of reckoning within all that. And again, it's like, as Steven is the one who's kind of inviter, and Greg's like, oh man, like, we kind of finally confront Greg with the fact of like, oh man, I went on a road trip with Garnet. That was one thing. We already had our emotional episode, but now with Pearl, that's like I'm not even prepared for, man. Of course, I love the idea of like giving Greg a whole bunch of money just to kind of give us some new story opportunities. And again, he's a humble man, so he's not going to go through the whole 10 million. But now he has kind of an occasion for story, which brings us to Empire City.
Yeah,
which is a great setting.
I was gonna say, I love the setup for bringing Pearl, just that big song about going on the trip, and it's like kind of like it's kind of like the Who, it's kind of like got a Tommy quality to it. And then at the very end of it, Steven's like, "And let's bring Pearl."
Yes, I know. I love like he has like a big name, like we're going to Empire City, and then "and Pearl" is like a little on the screen too. It's like the age-old thing with the song.
Pearl.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. And Pearl, we add her in there. And again, like, I mean, all of that is great. And again, just seriously, I just love this sweet little moment where Pearl gets like a tailored suit and just top hat and tails, just dancing with Steven. And it always makes for a delightful evening when I'm hanging with my pal Steven. It's the most adorable little bit in the song and dance number. But again, I love how like when she screws up the whole song at the end, like no, and she has to say yes, like just let's sing, let's dance with me, Pearl. Like no, and of course like you ruined the song. coming from the background, guys. But seriously, the emotional catharsis of that song, and Steven yet again trying to fix a relationship on a road trip, it just seems to be a winning formula, but done even better here than it was with Keystone Motel. I mean, it's like I love that we go from the motel to the hotel, and they're kind of like a sister sequel in that sense, Seriously, just there's so many nice things to say about it.
Very sweeping episode, man. It's a very sweeping episode emotionally. And Dragon, I'm pretty sure when we were doing the reactions and I was still doing my on-camera stuff before we switched to just screen share only, because frankly, that's easier. And also it makes more sense for a podcast format, but I digress. But when I was on camera, Dragon, I'm 99%. I know I applauded. Like, I know I clapped my hands at the end of it instinctually, not just for show. I'm pretty sure I gave it a standing ovation.
I'm sure you made some sort of over-the-top show of things, but yes, I think that sounds about right.
I mean, I was completely floored, and I'm pretty sure I said something to the effect of like, I'm not sure if we're gonna get anything as good as that ever again, and I think I was probably right. So
that you were, and again, just seeing Pearl's character arc, this is absolutely the high point of that story. And again, this is what I was getting at with Last One Out of Beach City. That was kind of a sequel to this, to Mr. Greg of it all. So I love that Pearl's always had really consistently solid episodes within that story. And again, Mr. Greg being like the big hump that she has to get over. within things, and again, speaking to the loss that they both have suffered, they're more similar than they give credit to. And we've had all these gags along the way of like Pearl having nightmares about Greg. Thanks for fixing my van. We've been building up to this for a number of episodes, and it was just a really really satisfying conclusion to everything there with that story. Just it's a work art, Mr. Greg. It's just it's perfection.
All right, Dragon, and you're number one.
My number one, the only thing short of Mr. Greg I could possibly put as my number one, We Need to Talk.
Oh yeah.
I believe,
I have one observation about this one, then I'll throw it to you. All right.
Okay.
I love episodes that kind of really. This is one of the reasons why I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood so much. Is that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, much like this episode, it captures a very specific time and place. It captures a moment, right? And I feel like this episode does the same thing. This episode just captures a moment, and it does it just chillingly well. Just absolutely just like, oh my God. All right. Go ahead.
All right. So, of course, We Need to Talk. It's a classic. It's my go-to Steven Universe episode. It's second to Mr. Greg. Second to Mr. Greg, the go-to episode. Always been a favorite. To me, it was always the height of storytelling with Steven Universe. It's the best flashback episode. It's an episode on essentially what creates Steven in the first place. The relationship of Greg and Rose. I know it's not the first time they met each other, but it was the first time they really the relationship truly evolved into a relationship instead of just like, hey, Gem and Man hanging out. Mm-hmm. This is season 2. At this point, think about it. At this point in the series, this is season 2. We now know what fusion really is. We've seen fusion done a number of times tactically. We have like the deeper level of fusion with Garnet, so we know how that whole thing works. So we see how intimate it is, and this episode really lends itself to how that idea lends itself very well to how intimate an episode this is about a relationship. So again, really boiling down fusion to what it really is, a relationship. So we see a lot of really great things, again, kind of complementing the Mr. Greg of it all. We see kind of Pearl and Greg at their worst, in a sense. We get to see like the inherent jealousy, like Pearl, like they're mic dropping each other, just trying to show each other up. Pearl is just really brutally honest as they're butting heads here as like romantic rivals, just saying, Rose's affection for you, you're just a passing phase. You're never going to stick. We've been around for thousands of years. You think she hasn't been in love before Pshaw? You can't fuse. That's the true mark. We can fuse because, package deal. Been around thousands of years. Let's see, can't really be killed. So good luck with that, buddy. So a lot of just phenomenal stuff there with Pearl. Just kind of seeing Pearl, just kind of this very salty, just like, like sassy Pearl back in the day. But I love that, I love that the romantic in Garnet that we've now seen many a times, and even going back to Steven Universe Future for a second with the whole Ruby and Sapphire being the desperate romantics they are. The romantic in Garnet is pulling for Greg with this really great advice that she gives him here, and it's such a great idea to give a character like Greg Universe, really likable character like Greg Universe, an impossible goal, fusion, something that until years and years later in Steven Universe we had no idea was possible. That Greg Universe could fuse, that it would even be possible for him. But seriously, this is something. This is beautiful, and it's a perfectly. We have, to me, the biggest highlight of the episode, I think we can all agree to, is the perfectly constructed dance on the beach. The music, the dun, dun,
that's
dun,
what I'm
dun,
talking about with a specific moment in a time and place. Yeah,
absolutely. Because that's when I think of the best of Steven Universe, I'm always thinking of that moment. As great as Mr. Greg is, that moment still kind of rings out a little bit more. It's that dance on the beach, him doing.
I wouldn't disagree to that.
So again, it's just the romance within this and the brilliant turn. The brilliant turn because literally he put stars in he put stars in Rose's eyes with the romance he just dropped on her there, which is beautiful in itself. But then you're thinking that's the end of things. He says, we didn't fuse, and she's starting to laugh her head off. You think, okay, maybe that's going to be the end of things, but no. Then we go with the brilliant turn. This is where the episode earns all the points, man. Earns all the Pearl points as well. it's not a fusion of body, but basically we don't see a fusion of the body. We see a fusion of souls, thoughts, and feelings, and it's something really magic about that. It's an honest conversation they have where Greg, in a way, Greg proves Pearl both right and wrong. That she does see Greg as a plaything, which is true, and like she's laughing him off, saying, "Oh, we've had fun together." Oh yes, all that sort of stuff. Like Rose. If you really look at that scene, Rose just keeps laughing at him and not really taking him seriously at all. And he says, "Rose, just talk to me like I'm a person." And what Greg does here so brilliantly, he just keeps digging deeper and confronting Rose about this. Like, no, okay, we got to talk. And the whole episode, we need to talk. It's just, we can't just like make each other laugh. We got to talk now and again. And basically, this is a relationship, what they kind of learn about each other through this real conversations, that they're in a relationship that shouldn't work. Because she isn't a real person. She's a construct of light. She's, again, she's just this whole other thing with this whole other legacy and backstory. And this relationship, by all intents and purposes, should not work. Again, like she's going to live far out. She's going to far outlive him in theory. But again, like what Greg's saying is, like, we can make it work with if we acknowledge our own insecurities about this, like new untapped potential, this new kind of untraveled ground of a relationship between the two of us that might kind of take here. It's if we just acknowledge our faults and our insecurities, like we're both terrified. This is both torture to some extent, but we're still in it because we kind of feel something for each other. And this all tracks with the progression of the tape. When you look at the tape in the grand scheme of things, where we see the end point of all this, where again she learns about humanity. She's not just like amused by humanity. She longs to become human. And Rose's understanding of humanity eventually manifests itself in the ultimate fusion, by the fusion of herself and Greg's love into Steven. Steven, again, not being a literal fusion, but being a fusion in the metaphorical sense. So, and of course, the end of the episode, again, all of that is fantastic. And like Garnet of all people, the main fusion authority saying, "Oh, they fused." They fused. It's like, yes, that's great. But again, Steven, the really haunting bit at the end of the episode, after Greg, basically the whole thing's framed around the Stevani thing and acknowledging, "Oh, yes, you guys can fuse. I never could do that." So basically offering his support to Connie. You ever need to talk to a kind of a human being, you got me. Steven having that moment, human beings, we're just kind of grabbing the shirt there, kind of grabbing the gem, as it were. And it's like Rose. Like Rose, Steven is facing his own journey of what am I in relation to the Earth? Who am I? Kind of sets forth the journey that Steven's going to go on through the course of the series, finding his own place, like Rose eventually found her place via the tape and via that moment where a relationship became something more than just like a passing fancy. It's just really, really strong stuff there. Really good stuff. And it's one of the all-time Hall of Famer episodes. Just how this thing didn't at least get an Emmy nomination, I'll never know, but it's fantastic.
All right, well said. Okay, Claude says, "I'm surprised you didn't put Change Your Mind, Bismuth, I Am My Monster, United, Homeward Bound, or The Future on the list."
Okay.
Yeah, Claude,
Dragon
kind of explained. Yeah, go ahead.
Claude, again, if this were like best episodes, then believe me, Change Your Mind, Bismuth, and The Future would be on there. Maybe basically most of these episodes you just listed would be there if we're like an objective best. But we're not quite there. We're talking about favorites. That's the thing. These are good episodes.
What? I'm going to be... Claude, I love you, buddy, but I'm going to be kind of mean here. Homeworld Bound doesn't belong on a top 10 list. I'm sorry.
Remind me, Tiki,
Claude.
Was that from Future, that Homeworld Bound?
Yeah, that was from Future. That was the random visit to Homeworld. Claude, Homeworld Bound, everyone felt out of character. To me at least. I mean, I'm glad you like it, subjectivity, Steven.
One time it's actually appropriate when we use the subjectivity, Steven.
Right. But, yeah, I don't. Homeworld Bound was honestly not one of my favorite episodes of Future, if I'm being honest with you.
I mean, I think it's fine, but my point is, like, I don't know if I'd go with, like, an objective best. What I'm saying is most of the things you listed,
I think is probably one of the big ones that we probably should have had on the list between the two of us, honestly.
Yeah.
And like you said, if we were doing an objective best one, then I'm sure one of us would have had Bismuth.
By the way, did we lose Banner, or is that intentional?
That was intentional. I just didn't want to lock into it if it was like midway through the scroll.
Sure, gotcha. No problem. I just want to make sure. I was wondering if there's any loss in communication there with Claude here.
No,
favorite being the operative thing here. But again, the good episodes, just then, not quite our favorites. They had there are a lot to pick from, Claudia. Believe me. If it was top 20, I think you might see some of those on there. But again, if we're talking absolute objective best, believe me, Bismuth and Change Your Mind will be on there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Dragon, I'm like paranoid that my computer is going to conk out at the last
Okay.
second. So let's go through the top 10 really quick.
Okay.
My top 10. Number 10, Giant Woman. Number 9, Sworn to the Sword. Number 8, Sadie Killer. Number 7, definitely the guilty pleasure of the list, Onion Friend. Number 6, Little Graduation. Number 5, On the Run. Number 4, Bubbled. Number 3, Super Watermelon, or I'm sorry, number 3 is Message Received. Number 2 is Super Watermelon Island. And number 1 is Mr. Greg.
I shake a leg. Okay. All right, my top 10. All right, so top 10. Number 10, Restaurant Wars. Number 9, 3 Gems and a Baby. Number 8, Tiger Millionaire. Number 7, When It Rains. Number 6, Keystone Motel. Number 5, A Single Pale Rose. Number 4, Line 3, straight to video. Number 3, So Many Birthdays. Number 2, Last One Out of Beach City. Number 1, We Need to Talk.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Big thanks to Claude for all his comments. You rock, Claude. Thank you so much. Rock, Claude. Anyways, I'm sorry, little gem humor there. We are the Crystal Gems. Wally saved the date. If you think we can't, we'll always find a way. That's why the people believe in Tiki.
Dragon.
And Steven and Claude, really quick, I'll definitely do a top 10 episodes of Gravity Falls with Jacob. I'm not caught up on Star Versus yet. And Steven.
And Pearl.
It's over, isn't it? Isn't it?